I was pouring myself a cup of coffee when I heard Nina's coffee mug shatter on the kitchen floor. Through the doorway, I could see my daughter-in-law staring at the TV, her mouth hanging open like she'd seen a ghost. On the screen was my face, larger than life, with the words, "Local hero Gladys Washington," scrolling beneath it. "Mama Gladys?" she whispered, turning to look at me with eyes wide as saucers. Is that really you on the morning news?" I took a slow sip of my coffee, savoring the moment. Just yesterday, this same woman had stood in my living room, pointing at my gray hair and calling me outdated and past my prime. Now here she was, watching me become the talk of the city. "Yes, baby," I said calmly. "That's me." Before we continue, please comment below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to help us hit that big 1,000 subscriber milestone. Let me take you back to where this all started. 3 days ago, I was just another 72-year-old grandmother living in the house my late husband Earl and I bought 40 years ago in West Memphis. My son Darnell had moved back in with me 6 months earlier, bringing his wife Nina and their 2 children, my grandbabies Jalen and Amara. At first, I was overjoyed. After Earl passed 2 years ago, that big old house felt too empty. Having the pitter-patter of little feet again, hearing Jalen's laughter and Amara's singing, it brought life back into these walls. I cooked big Sunday dinners like I used to, made my famous peach cobbler, and enjoyed having family around. But Nina? Lord have mercy. That woman tested every ounce of patience the good Lord gave me. It started small. Little comments about my old-fashioned cooking. Suggestions that I should update my living room furniture. Eye rolls when I mentioned church activities or community meetings. But what happened 3 days ago? That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I'd just come back from Sister Hattie's house, where we'd been planning the church's annual senior entrepreneurship fair. My gray hair was styled in the same neat bun I'd worn for years, and I was wearing my favorite purple dress, the one Earl always said made me look regal. Nina was in the living room with her friend Keisha, and they didn't hear me come in through the back door. I was about to announce myself when I heard my name. "Girl, I can't stand living here," Nina was saying. "Darnell's mama is so outdated. Look at this house. Everything screams 1985. And don't even get me started on her gray hair. She won't even try to dye it. Walking around here looking like somebody's grandma." "She is somebody's grandma," Keisha laughed. "You know what I mean. No style, no effort, just old and in the way. Darnell keeps saying we need to save money, but I'm about ready to tell him we need to put her in one of those senior communities. This house could be sold for good money." My hand tightened on my purse strap. Put me in a senior community? Sell my house? "She's always at church or some community thing," Nina continued, "talking about helping other old people start businesses. Like, what business does a 72-year-old woman have starting anything? She needs to just sit down somewhere and let younger people handle things." I stepped into the room then, watching both women freeze. "Good afternoon, ladies." Nina's face flushed. "Mama Gladys, we were just talking about my gray hair and how outdated I am." I kept my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "I heard you loud and clear, Nina." Keisha grabbed her purse and mumbled something about needing to go. Nina stood there, trying to find words. "You think because I'm 72 I should just sit down and die?" I asked. "You think this gray hair means I don't have anything left to offer?" "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant." I walked past her to my bedroom. "And just so you know, this house isn't going anywhere, and neither am I." That night at dinner, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Darnell tried to make conversation, but Nina barely spoke. My grandbabies sensed something was wrong. Children always do. "Grandma, are you sad?" little Amara asked, her big brown eyes looking up at me. "No, baby. Grandma's just thinking." And I was thinking. All night, I tossed and turned, Nina's words echoing in my mind. Outdated. past my prime. Just sit down somewhere." The next morning, I woke up with a fire in my belly I hadn't felt in years. I put on my best suit, the navy blue one I wore to Earl's funeral, fixed my gray hair in an elegant updo, and headed to the community center. Sister Hattie was already there, setting up for our senior entrepreneurship meeting. "Gladys, you look like you mean business today." "I do mean business," I told her. "Tell me more about that campaign with the news station." Her eyes lit up. "Oh, the one where they're featuring senior entrepreneurs? Channel 5 wants to highlight older folks who are starting businesses or community projects, fighting against age discrimination and all that." "I want in." Sister Hattie nearly dropped her coffee. "You? But Gladys, you always said you were too shy for TV." "That was yesterday. Today I've got something to prove." What I didn't know was that my story, a 72-year-old widow using her late husband's life insurance to start a fund for other seniors to launch small businesses, was exactly what the news station was looking for. Within hours, a reporter named Tanya Williams was sitting in my living room with a camera crew. "Mrs. Washington, what inspired you to start the Earl Washington Senior Dream Fund?" I looked directly into the camera, thinking about Nina's words. My husband Earl always believed that age was just a number. He started his auto repair shop at 55 after working factory jobs his whole life. When he passed, he left me more than just money. He left me his belief that it's never too late to chase your dreams. "And you've already helped 12 seniors start businesses?" "Yes, ma'am. We've got Mrs. Johnson with her catering service, Mr. Charles with his handyman business, Sister Ruth with her alterations shop." I smiled. People think because we have gray hair, we don't have gray matter. But we've got wisdom, experience, and plenty of fight left in us. What do you say to people who think seniors should just retire quietly? I straightened my shoulders. I say they're missing out on a gold mine of knowledge and experience. Every wrinkle tells a story, every gray hair represents a lesson learned. We're not outdated, we're seasoned. And seasoning is what makes the meal taste good. The interview went on for an hour. Tanya asked about Earl, about my vision for the fund, about the seniors I'd helped. I told her about Mr. Charles, who'd been told he was too old to start a business at 68, now booked solid with handyman jobs. About Sister Ruth, whose children said she should just enjoy retirement, now hemming wedding dresses for half the city. What I didn't know was that while I was being interviewed, Nina had come home early from work. She'd stood in the hallway, hidden from view, listening to every word. The camera crew left around 3 o'clock. I was exhausted, but exhilarated. Sister Hattie called, bubbling with excitement. "Girl, you were amazing! Tanya said they're rushing to edit it for tomorrow morning's show." That evening, Nina was unusually quiet at dinner. She kept glancing at me, opening her mouth like she wanted to say something, then closing it again. "You okay, baby?" Darnell asked her. "Yeah, just tired." After dinner, I was in the kitchen washing dishes when Nina came in. "Mama Gladys, can I help?" I nearly dropped a plate. Nina never offered to help with dishes. "Sure, you can dry." We worked in silence for a moment before she spoke. "I saw the news crew here today." "Did you now?" I heard some of your interview about the fund and helping seniors." I kept washing, waiting. "I didn't know you were doing all that." "There's a lot you don't know about me, Nina. You've been too busy thinking I'm outdated to actually see me." She flinched but kept drying. "Darnell never told me about his daddy's auto shop." "You never asked. Too busy planning how to put me in a home and sell my house." The plate slipped from her hands but didn't break. "You heard that?" "Every word." "Mama Gladys, Save it," I said, but not unkindly. "Actions speak louder than words. You'll see me on TV tomorrow morning. Then we'll talk." That night, I barely slept. What if the interview was boring? What if nobody cared about an old woman and her fund? What if Nina was right? and I really was just an outdated relic. But then I remembered Earl's voice. "Gladdy, you could move mountains if you just believed you could." Morning came faster than expected. I was up at 5:30, coffee brewing, waiting. The morning show started at 6 o'clock. At 6:47, Tanya's face appeared on screen. "Good morning, Memphis. Today we have an inspiring story about a local woman who's proving that age is truly just a number." And there I was. My face filled the screen, my gray hair shining under the lights like a silver crown. I watched myself speak with passion about the fund, about Earl, about the seniors I'd helped. The camera caught the tears in my eyes when I talked about Mr. Charles calling me crying because he'd been able to buy his granddaughter a computer with his earnings. That's when I heard the crash from the other room, Nina's coffee mug hitting the floor. I walked into the living room just as the segment was ending. Tanya was saying, "Mrs. Washington's story has already gone viral on our social media, with thousands sharing her message that seasoning makes the meal taste good. If you'd like to contribute to the Earl Washington Senior Dream Fund." Nina was still staring at the TV, even as the program moved to weather. Darnell came running down the stairs. "Baby, what was that crash? Are you okay?" She pointed at the screen, then at me. "Your mama, she's famous." My phone started ringing, then Darnell's, then Nina's. Within minutes, the house was in chaos. Neighbors calling, church members texting, even strangers who'd found my number somehow. "Mama, your Facebook." Darnell showed me his phone. "The video has 50,000 shares already," Sister Hattie called, screaming with joy. "Gladys! Girl, the community center phone is ringing off the hook. People want to donate. A company wants to sponsor the fund." Through all the chaos, I watched Nina. She stood there in her pajamas, hair wrapped, no makeup, looking younger and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. When our eyes met, hers filled with tears. But before she could speak, Darnell's phone rang again. He answered, his face growing serious. "Yes, this is her son. The Today Show? You want Mama to come to New York?" Everyone stopped talking. Nina's tears spilled over. "Tomorrow?" Darnell was saying. "Let me ask her." He looked at me, eyes wide. "Mama, the Today Show wants to fly you to New York tomorrow to talk about the fund. They're calling you the grandmother of entrepreneurship." My knees felt weak. The Today Show? New York? This morning I was just Gladys Washington from West Memphis. Now they wanted me on national television? I need to think," I managed to say. "They need an answer in an hour, Mama." I looked at Nina, who had sunk onto the couch. Her face was a mix of shame, awe, and something else I couldn't quite read. My phone buzzed again. Another news outlet wanting an interview. "Grandma's famous!" Jalen came running in, Amara behind him. "My teacher just texted Mom. She saw you on TV." As my grandchildren hugged my legs and phones rang all around us, I caught Nina wiping her eyes. We had a lot to talk about. But first, I had a decision to make about New York. And somewhere in heaven, I knew Earl was smiling, whispering, "I told you so, Gladdy. I told you so." I said yes to the Today Show. How could I not? At 72 years old, opportunities like this don't come knocking twice. Within 2 hours, I had a flight booked for the next morning, Sister Hattie volunteering to come with me, and half the church planning to wake up early to watch. But first, I had to deal with the situation in my own house. Nina had disappeared into the bedroom she shared with Darnell. I could hear her crying through the door. My son sat at the kitchen table, looking torn between comforting his wife and celebrating his mama's success. "Go talk to her," I told him. "I need to pack anyway." "Mama, I'm so proud of you," Darnell said, hugging me tight. "Daddy would be bursting his buttons right now." "I know, baby, I know." After he went upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, trying to process everything. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing. The local news wanted a follow-up story. A magazine wanted to write about the fund. 3 different organizations wanted me to speak at their events. And the donations? Lord have mercy, people were sending money from all over the country. Around dinner time, Nina finally emerged. Her eyes were red and swollen, her face bare. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in a few hours. "Mama Gladys, can we talk? Please?" I gestured to the chair across from me. She sat down, twisting her hands in her lap. "I owe you the biggest apology of my life," she started, her voice breaking. "What I said, there's no excuse. I was cruel and disrespectful and just plain wrong." I sipped my tea and waited. I've been so focused on what I wanted, a bigger house, newer things, keeping up with my friends, that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. "You're not outdated, Mama Gladys. You're incredible, and I was too blind and selfish to see it." "Why?" I asked simply. "Why did you look at me and see nothing but something old and in the way?" Nina's tears started fresh. "Because that's what I'm afraid of becoming. My mama's only 52, and she acts like her life is over. She stopped trying, stopped caring about anything except watching TV and complaining. I saw her giving up, and I thought that's what getting older meant. So when I looked at you, I just saw age, gray hair, old furniture. I didn't see the person." "So you wanted to put me in a home?" She flinched. "I never actually... I said it, but I wouldn't have really..." "Yes, you would have." I set down my teacup. "If Darnell had agreed, you would have convinced yourself it was for the best. That I'd be happier somewhere else. That you deserved this house more than I did." Nina covered her face with her hands. "You're right. God, you're right. What kind of person does that make me?" "The kind who still has time to change," I said softly. "You're 34 years old, Nina. You've got a lot of living left to do, and a lot of learning, too. The question is, what are you going to do now?" She looked up at me, mascara-stained tears on her cheeks. "I want to do better. I want to help. With the fund, with whatever you need. I want my children to see you the way the rest of the world is seeing you right now." "They already do," I told her. "Children see with their hearts. It's adults who get cataracts of the soul." Despite everything, Nina laughed a little at that. "Can I help you pack for New York? You can start by helping me figure out what a 72-year-old woman wears on national television." We spent the evening going through my closet, and for the first time since she'd moved in, Nina and I actually talked. Really talked. She told me about her own insecurities, her fears of getting older, her complicated relationship with her mother. I told her about my journey with Earl, the struggles we'd faced, the dreams we'd built together. "You know what the secret is?" I asked as I folded a burgundy blazer into my suitcase. "The secret to not becoming bitter as you age?" "What?" "Keep planting seeds. My mama told me that. She said, 'Gladdy, the day you stop planting seeds is the day you start dying. Doesn't matter if it's a garden, a business, a relationship, or a dream. Keep planting.'" Nina sat on the edge of my bed, really listening. "The fund is your seed. One of them. My grandbabies are seeds. This conversation we're having right now is a seed. You never know what's going to bloom." Darnell knocked on the door, poking his head in. "Y'all good in here?" "We're good, baby," I said, and I meant it. That night, I barely slept again, but this time it was from excitement, not worry. At 4:00 a.m., Sister Hattie picked me up in a car service that Channel 5 had arranged. Nina and Darnell came downstairs to see me off. "Knock 'em dead, Mama," Darnell said, hugging me tight. Nina hugged me too, whispering, "Thank you for giving me another chance." The flight to New York was like a dream. Sister Hattie and I kept pinching each other to make sure it was real. When we landed, there was a driver holding a sign with my name on it. A driver! For me! The Today Show studio was bigger and brighter than I'd imagined. Makeup artists fussed over my face and hair. "Your gray is absolutely gorgeous," one of them said. "Don't ever dye it." "Wasn't planning on it," I replied, thinking of Nina. When I walked onto that set and saw Hoda Kotb and Jenna Bush Hager smiling at me, my heart nearly stopped. But then I remembered who I was. Gladys Washington, daughter of Dorothy and James Carter, wife of Earl Washington, mother of Darnell, grandmother of Jalen and Amara. I had nothing to be ashamed of and everything to be proud of. "Mrs. Washington, you've taken the internet by storm," Hoda said. "Your message about seasoning making the meal taste good has resonated with millions. Tell us about the Earl Washington Senior Dream Fund." And I told them. I told them about Earl's dream, about the seniors I'd helped, about the importance of recognizing that older people have value and vision. I told them about Mr. Charles and Sister Ruth. I told them about the church community that supported the fund. "What do you say to people who think seniors should just slow down?" Jenna asked. "I say we've been running this race called life a lot longer than most, and we know how to pace ourselves. Slowing down doesn't mean stopping. It means being intentional. Every step matters more when you know the finish line is somewhere ahead." The interview was supposed to be 6 minutes. It went 15. When it ended, Hoda hugged me and whispered, "You're going to change lives, Mrs. Washington." Backstage, the producers told me that the phones had been ringing non-stop. The fund's website had crashed from too much traffic. Donations were pouring in from every state. "Mrs. Washington," a young producer named Andre said, "we'd like to do a follow-up segment in a month. Show the impact of all these donations. Would you be willing?" "Of course, baby." Sister Hattie and I flew back to Memphis that afternoon, exhausted but elated. When the plane landed, my phone exploded with messages. The fund had raised over $300,000 in one day. $300,000. I sat in my airplane seat and cried. Earl and I had started the fund with $50,000 from his life insurance. Now, in less than 48 hours, that money had multiplied 6 times over. How many seniors could we help now? How many dreams could we fund? Darnell picked us up from the airport with the kids in the car. Jalen and Amara ran to me screaming, "Grandma's a superstar!" "We watched you at school," Amara said, "on the big screen in the cafeteria." "Everyone knows you're my grandma," Jalen added proudly. When we got home, I expected the house to be quiet. Instead, the living room was full of people, church members, neighbors, people from the community center. They'd thrown together a surprise welcome home party. "Speech! Speech!" everyone chanted. I stood in my living room, the same living room Nina had called outdated, and looked at all those faces. Black faces, brown faces, young and old, all beaming with pride. "Y'all are going to make an old woman cry," I started. "I didn't do anything special. I just believed that we all deserve a chance to chase our dreams, no matter how many candles are on our birthday cake. This community believed in the fund when it was just an idea. You supported it when it was small. And now look, the whole country is paying attention. But it's not about me. It's about every person who's been told they're too old, too late, too past their prime. It's about proving them wrong." The room erupted in applause. I saw Nina standing in the corner, clapping harder than anyone, tears streaming down her face. Over the next week, my life became a whirlwind. More interview requests, speaking invitations, partnership opportunities. A publisher wanted me to write a book. A university wanted me to give a commencement speech. The governor's office called to schedule a meeting. Through it all, Nina transformed. She started volunteering at the community center, helping seniors with their business plans. She brought her marketing skills from her job to help promote the fund. She even convinced her company to make a corporate donation. One evening, 2 weeks after the Today Show appearance, Nina asked if we could talk again. We sat on the back porch, watching Jalen and Amara play in the yard. "I told my mama about everything that happened," Nina said. "About what I said to you, about you going viral, about the fund." "What did she say?" "She cried. Then she asked me to help her sign up for a computer class at the library. Nina smiled. She said if Mama Gladys can start something new at 72, she can learn something new at 52. That's wonderful, baby. I'm starting to see it now, Mama Gladys. Age isn't the enemy. Giving up is. Now you're learning. We sat in comfortable silence for a while before Nina spoke again. I need to tell you something. Something I'm ashamed of. I waited. Before all this happened, Darnell and I were looking at houses. We'd talked to a realtor about listing this place. We were going to tell you that we found you a nice senior apartment and that selling would give you money for your care. She couldn't look at me. We were going to use the profit for our down payment on a bigger house. My heart clenched, but I kept my voice steady. Were you going to ask me first? Darnell wanted to. I convinced him that we should present it as a done deal, make it seem like it was for your benefit. She finally looked at me, her face full of shame. I was going to steal your home from you, Mama Gladys. Your home with Earl's memories, where you raised Darnell, where everything you love is. And I was going to make myself believe I was doing you a favor. The crickets chirped in the growing darkness. Inside, I could hear Darnell making dinner, probably my recipe for smothered pork chops. But you didn't, I finally said. Only because I got caught first. If you hadn't heard me that day, if you hadn't gone on TV, if none of this had happened... She shook her head. I would have done it. I would have taken everything from you and called it kindness. Why are you telling me this now? Because I can't move forward carrying this lie, because you deserve to know the whole truth, and because... Her voice broke. Because I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I almost destroyed. Not just a house, but your dignity, your independence, your right to live your life on your terms. I almost became the villain in your story, and I hate myself for it. I reached over and took her hand. You know what Earl used to say? The best apology is changed behavior. You telling me this? That's step one. But what matters is what you do from here on out. I want to do better. I want to be better. For you, for Darnell, for my babies. I want them to grow up respecting their elders, not warehousing them. Then that's what you'll teach them. Not with words, but with actions. We hugged there on the porch, and it felt like a real hug for the first time. Not the obligatory holiday hug or the quick greeting hug, but a real embrace between two women who'd hurt each other and were finding their way to healing. The next morning, I woke up to my phone ringing at 6:30 a.m. It was Andre from the Today Show. Mrs. Washington, I hope I didn't wake you. I've been up since 5 o'clock, baby. What's going on? We've been following the fund's progress, and the numbers are incredible. You're up to $800,000 in donations now, but that's not why I'm calling. He paused. We've received hundreds of stories from seniors across the country who want to start businesses but don't know how. We'd like to do a special week-long series featuring you mentoring some of them. We're calling it Dream Fund Week. Would you be interested? Would I be interested? I nearly dropped the phone. When? We'd start filming in 3 weeks. You'd choose 5 seniors from the applications we've received, and we'd document your process of helping them launch their businesses. We'd cover all costs and film right there in Memphis. Yes, absolutely. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed, overwhelmed. A week-long series, national television, 5 more seniors getting their dreams funded. This was bigger than anything I'd imagined. I told the family at breakfast. Darnell whooped with joy. The kids started planning what they'd wear on TV. And Nina? Nina looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Genuine respect. Mama Gladys, let me help coordinate everything. I can take time off work. We can use my project management skills to organize it all. I'd like that, I said. The next 3 weeks flew by in a blur of preparation. Nina threw herself into helping, and I watched her bloom. She organized community meetings, helped review applications, coordinated with the TV producers. The woman who'd called me outdated was now my right hand. We selected 5 seniors from across the country: a 68-year-old man from Detroit who wanted to start a bike repair shop, a 71-year-old woman from Atlanta who dreamed of opening a soul food restaurant, a 65-year-old veteran from Dallas who wanted to launch a landscaping business, a 73-year-old woman from Chicago who wanted to start a bookkeeping service, and a 69-year-old man from Houston who wanted to open a music school. The producers flew them all to Memphis. The filming would take place over 5 days, with cameras following me as I mentored each person. The church community center became our headquarters. On the first day of filming, I arrived early to find the parking lot packed. News vans, cameras, crowds of people. And standing at the front door, looking nervous and out of place, was Nina's mother, Patricia. "Mrs. Washington," she said shyly, "Nina told me what you're doing. I wondered if I could watch. Learn something?" I smiled and took her arm. "Come on in. There's always room for one more dreamer." The week of filming was magical. I watched 5 seniors light up as we worked through their business plans, connected them with resources, and funded their dreams. The cameras caught every emotional moment: the tears, the laughter, the breakthroughs. On the final day of filming, as we celebrated with all 5 seniors and the community, Andre pulled me aside. "Mrs. Washington, the footage is incredible, but the producers want to add something to the final episode." "What's that?" "They want to include your story with Nina, the transformation. We've noticed her helping all week, and when we asked around, people told us about the conflict between you two and how she's changed. It's a powerful subplot, the daughter-in-law who learned to see value in aging." My stomach dropped. "Did Nina agree to this?" "We haven't asked her yet. We wanted your permission first." I thought about Nina's confession on the porch, her shame, her growth. This could humiliate her on national television, but it could also show the world that people can change, that redemption is possible. "Let me talk to her first." I found Nina in the kitchen, helping Sister Hattie pack up food. "Baby, can we step outside?" When I told her about the producer's request, her face went pale. "They want to tell everyone what a horrible person I was? They want to tell everyone about the person you're becoming." She sat down on the church steps, wringing her hands. "The whole country will know I tried to put you in a home, that I called you outdated. They'll hate me. Or they'll see themselves. How many people treat their elders like burdens? How many people have said cruel things they regret? You could help them see there's a path to doing better." I don't know if I'm strong enough for that kind of exposure. I sat beside her. 3 weeks ago, I didn't know if I was strong enough to go on TV. But you know what? Our strength isn't something we have. It's something we find when we need it. Nina was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Okay, I'll do it. But only if I can tell it my way. I won't sugarcoat what I did. People need to hear the ugly truth." The next day, they filmed Nina's interview. I wasn't allowed to watch, but Andre told me later that there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Nina had been brutally honest about her ageism, her greed, her plan to take my house. But she'd also been honest about her transformation and what she'd learned. Dream Fund Week aired 2 weeks later. Every morning for a week, Darnell, Nina, the kids and I gathered in the living room to watch. We watched the 5 seniors get their dreams funded. We watched the community rally around them. We watched me share Earl's wisdom and my own hard-earned lessons. And on Friday morning, the final episode, we watched Nina's interview. She looked directly into the camera and said, "I'm not the hero of this story. I'm the villain who got a chance to change. My mother-in-law showed me that aging isn't about declining. It's about refining. Every year adds value if we let it. I almost threw away something precious because I couldn't see past gray hair and old furniture. I hope anyone watching who's done the same will take this as a wake-up call. Our elders aren't burdens. They're treasures. and we're fools if we can't see it. I watched Nina watching herself on TV, tears streaming down her face. Darnell had his arm around her. The kids were quiet, understanding that something important was happening, even if they didn't fully grasp what. My phone started buzzing. Messages from around the country. But it was Nina's phone that exploded. Her friends, her coworkers, her family, everyone reaching out. One message made her gasp. "Mama Gladys, it's from my mother." She read it out loud, her voice shaking. "Baby girl, I watched you this morning. I'm proud of you for owning your mistakes. You inspired me to stop making excuses. I enrolled in that computer class, and I'm sorry for giving up on life so early. You and Mrs. Washington woke me up. I love you." Nina sobbed, and I held her while she cried. These were different tears now, tears of relief, of healing, of new beginnings. But then my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Washington? This is Attorney Gerald Hampton from Hampton and Associates. I represent the family of one of the seniors you featured this week, Mr. Charles, the handyman from Memphis." My heart stopped. "Is he okay?" "He's fine, ma'am, but his daughter isn't happy. She's filing a lawsuit against you and the fund, claiming you manipulated her father into starting a business that put him at risk. She's suing for $2 million in damages and seeking to have the fund shut down." The room spun. A lawsuit? Mr. Charles's daughter was suing me? "But Mr. Charles wanted to start his business," I managed to say. "He came to me." "I'm just informing you of the legal action, Mrs. Washington. You'll be served with papers within 48 hours. I suggest you get an attorney." When I hung up, everyone was staring at me. "Mama, what's wrong?" Darnell asked. I looked at my family, at the TV still showing scenes from Dream Fund Week, at everything we'd built over the past month. "We're being sued," I said. "Someone wants to shut down the fund." And just like that, our celebration turned to crisis. The lawsuit papers arrived on a Thursday afternoon, delivered by a stone-faced process server who didn't meet my eyes. I stood in my doorway holding the thick envelope, feeling the weight of it in my hands. Not just the physical weight, but everything it represented. "Mama, let me see it," Darnell said, taking the papers from my trembling hands. We sat around the kitchen table, me, Darnell, Nina, and Sister Hattie, who'd rushed over the moment I called. Darnell read through the legal documents, his face growing darker with each page. "This is crazy," he muttered. "Mr. Charles's daughter, Vanessa, is claiming you exploited vulnerable seniors for personal gain and media attention. She says her father was mentally incompetent when he started his business, and that the physical labor has put his health at risk." "Mr. Charles is sharp as a tack," Sister Hattie said indignantly. "And he's healthier now than he's been in years. Keeps telling everyone that working gives him purpose." "She's asking for $2 million in damages," Darnell continued. "Plus, she wants the fund shut down and all assets frozen pending investigation." Nina was typing furiously on her laptop. "I'm looking up this Vanessa Charles. Here, she's on Facebook." Her eyes widened. Oh my God. 3 weeks ago, she posted about needing money for a down payment on a house. And before that, she was complaining about having to babysit her father. "Let me see," I said, and Nina turned the laptop toward me. There on the screen was a woman about Nina's age, hair perfectly styled, posting pictures from expensive restaurants and luxury vacations. Her posts about Mr. Charles painted him as a burden, someone she had to deal with and manage. And then I saw the post from 3 weeks ago. "Dad's acting crazy, spending his Social Security on some business nonsense instead of helping me with my down payment. These old people watch one thing on TV and lose their minds. Might need to look into power of attorney." "She wants his money," Nina said flatly. "That's what this is about. Mr. Charles is making good income now from his handyman business, and she can't control it." Sister Hattie shook her head. "That man worked in factories for 45 years, never missing a day. Retired and was lost without purpose. The business gave him his life back. And his own daughter wants to take that away?" "We need a lawyer," Darnell said. "A good one. Mama, this could get expensive." I thought about the fund, about the $800,000 we'd raised, about the seniors we'd helped and the ones still waiting. "I'll use my own savings if I have to. The fund money is for the seniors, not for lawyers." "No," Nina said firmly. "We're not letting you go through your savings. Let me make some calls." Over the next few days, Nina worked like a woman possessed. She contacted every lawyer she could find, explaining the situation, looking for someone who'd take the case. Most wanted retainer fees we couldn't afford. The ones who didn't want money up front didn't want the publicity of going against a sympathetic daughter caring for her elderly father, because that's how Vanessa was spinning it to the media. "Local woman sues viral grandmother, claims elderly father exploited," the headlines read. The comments sections filled with people who hadn't watched Dream Fund Week, who only saw a daughter trying to protect her father. The fund's donations slowed to a trickle. Speaking invitations were quietly withdrawn. The publisher who'd wanted me to write a book sent a polite email saying they'd circle back after the legal issues were resolved. I sat in my bedroom holding Earl's picture, feeling like everything I'd built was crumbling. "I don't know what to do," I whispered to the photograph. "I was trying to help people, and now I'm being painted as a villain." A knock at my door. Nina poked her head in. "Mama Gladys, can I come in?" I nodded, and she sat on the edge of the bed. "I know what you're feeling right now," she said softly. "Like you made a mistake. Like maybe you should have just stayed quiet, stayed small, not drawn attention to yourself." "How do you know?" "Because that's what I felt when I agreed to do that interview. Scared that people would hate me, that I'd made myself a target." She took my hand. "But you told me something that day. You said our strength isn't something we have. It's something we find when we need it." "Well, I found mine. And now I'm going to help you find yours again." "Nina, you've done everything you can. The lawyers? Forget the lawyers I called. I'm going to the one person I should have started with." She stood up. "Get dressed, Mama Gladys. We're going to see Pastor Reeves." An hour later, we sat in Pastor Reeves's office at Greater Hope Baptist Church. He listened to the whole story, his weathered face thoughtful. "Sister Gladys, do you remember attorney Felicia Grant?" I searched my memory. "The young lady who joined the church last year? Works downtown?" "That's her. She specializes in elder law and nonprofit defense. More importantly, she's been looking for a way to give back to this community." He picked up his phone. "Let me call her." Within 20 minutes, attorney Felicia Grant was sitting in Pastor Reeves's office. She was a sharp-looking woman in her early 40s, with kind eyes behind stylish glasses. "Mrs. Washington, I watched Dream Fund Week with my mother," Felicia said. "She's 69 and has been talking about starting a catering business for years. You inspired her to finally do it. So when Pastor Reeves called me about your situation, I cleared my calendar. I can't afford... I'm not asking you to pay. This is pro bono. Consider it my contribution to the fund." She opened her briefcase and pulled out a notepad. "Now tell me everything about Mr. Charles and his business." For the next 2 hours, I told her about Mr. Charles. How he'd come to me 8 months ago, depressed and purposeless after retirement. How his eyes had lit up when we talked about starting a handyman business. How carefully we'd vetted his health with his doctor before approving the fund grant. How successful he'd become, with a waiting list of clients. "And his daughter Vanessa?" Felicia asked. "Never met her. Mr. Charles said she was always too busy to visit." Nina pulled up Vanessa's Facebook page on her phone. Until he started making money. Look, 3 months ago, she started posting pictures with him. Dinner with Dad. Quality time with Pops. All right after he got his first big payment for a renovation job. Felicia's eyes narrowed. Classic financial exploitation pattern. She ignored him when he was just living on Social Security. Once he had independent income, suddenly she's involved. She made notes. "I'll need to talk to Mr. Charles directly. Can you arrange that?" I'll call him right now, I said. Mr. Charles answered on the first ring. Sister Gladys, I've been trying to reach you. My daughter, she told me she was just trying to protect me, but this lawsuit isn't what I want. Mr. Charles, are you somewhere you can talk freely? I'm at a job site. Vanessa doesn't know I'm working today. She's been trying to make me stay home, saying I'm too fragile. He laughed bitterly. I just installed a whole deck by myself, but I'm too fragile? I have my attorney here. Can she speak with you? Felicia took my phone. Mr. Charles, this is attorney Felicia Grant. I need to ask you some questions. Their conversation lasted 30 minutes. When Felicia hung up, she was smiling. We've got a strong case. Mr. Charles is fully competent, sharp as they come. He has medical clearance from his doctor to work. He keeps meticulous business records showing the fund grant was used appropriately, and most importantly, he doesn't support his daughter's lawsuit. Can he just drop it? Nina asked. No, because Vanessa filed as his concerned caregiver and is seeking power of attorney as part of the suit. She's claiming he's unable to make sound decisions. Felicia's smile turned fierce. But we can fight it. And I think we should do it publicly. If she wants to use the media against you, we'll use it right back. Over the next week, Felicia worked tirelessly. She gathered medical records, business documents, testimonials from Mr. Charles's clients and doctor. She contacted the Today Show producers, who were outraged at the lawsuit and eager to help tell the truth. Nina became Felicia's unofficial assistant, organizing documents, coordinating meetings, managing media outreach. I watched my daughter-in-law transform into a warrior, fighting for me the way I'd fight for my own children. Why are you doing all this? I asked her one late night as we worked at the kitchen table. She looked up from her laptop. Because you gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one. Because you showed me what strength really looks like. And because I'll be damned if I let someone destroy you the way I almost did. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. Felicia warned me it would be ugly. Vanessa's lawyer would paint me as a predator targeting vulnerable seniors. Let them try, Sister Hattie said when I told her. We've got an entire community ready to testify. And they did come out. Church members, community center volunteers, the seniors I'd helped. They all rallied. The 5 people from Dream Fund Week sent video testimonials. The woman with the soul food restaurant in Atlanta flew to Memphis at her own expense to be there in person. You gave me my dream, she said simply. I'm not letting anyone take you down for it. 2 days before the hearing, Mr. Charles called me, his voice shaking. Sister Gladys, Vanessa just left my house. She offered to drop the lawsuit if I sign over power of attorney and close the business. She said it's for my own good. What did you tell her? I told her no. I told her I'm 68 years old, and I've finally found something that makes me want to get up in the morning. I told her she can sue whoever she wants, but I'll be at that hearing telling the truth. He paused. She said I'm choosing strangers over my own daughter, that I'm breaking her heart. Are you? I asked gently. No, I'm choosing myself. Maybe for the first time in my life. His voice grew stronger. My whole life, I worked to make other people happy. My boss, my wife before she passed, my daughter. The business isn't just about money. It's about finally doing something for me. And if Vanessa can't understand that, well, that's her choice. The day of the hearing arrived cold and gray, threatening rain. Darnell drove me to the courthouse with Nina in the passenger seat and Sister Hattie in the back. The parking lot was packed, news vans, supporters holding signs, and standing near the entrance, Mr. Charles himself, wearing his work clothes. Sister Gladys! He hurried over, hugging me tight. I'm ready to tell the truth. Inside the courtroom, I saw Vanessa for the first time. She looked just like her Facebook pictures, polished, professional, wearing an expensive suit. When our eyes met, hers were cold. Her lawyer, a slick-looking man named Bradley Morrison, painted a picture of a confused, elderly man being manipulated by a media-hungry woman. He showed pictures of Mr. Charles looking tired after a long day of work. "This man should be enjoying his retirement, not climbing ladders and straining his back," Morrison argued. Mrs. Washington exploited him for a feel-good story, with no regard for his well-being. Then it was Felicia's turn. She called Mr. Charles to the stand. "Mr. Charles, did Mrs. Washington force you to start a business?" "No, ma'am. I went to her begging for help. I was so depressed after retirement I could barely get out of bed. My wife had passed, my daughter never visited. I felt useless." "And how do you feel now?" "Alive." His voice rang through the courtroom. "For the first time in years, I feel alive. I wake up excited about my day. My clients appreciate my work. I'm making enough money to support myself and save for my grandson's college. Sister Gladys didn't exploit me. She saved me." "And what about the physical labor? Your daughter claims it's too dangerous." Mr. Charles laughed. "Your Honor, I spent 45 years working in factories, lifting heavy machinery, breathing in chemical fumes. Installing a deck or fixing a fence is nothing. My doctor says I'm healthier now than I've been in a decade because I'm active and have purpose." Morrison tried to shake him on cross-examination, but Mr. Charles held firm. Then Felicia called me to the stand. "Mrs. Washington, what motivated you to start the Earl Washington Sr. Dream Fund?" I looked at the judge, then at the packed courtroom. My husband spent his whole life being told he was too old, too uneducated, too late. He proved them all wrong. When he died, I wanted to honor him by helping other seniors prove the same thing. Age doesn't diminish dreams. It refines them. And Mr. Charles specifically. Did you exploit him? No, ma'am. I vetted him the same way I vet every applicant. Medical clearance, business plan review, financial counseling. We don't just hand out money, we create sustainable opportunities. Felicia presented medical records, business documents, testimonials. Then she showed Vanessa's Facebook posts. The ones complaining about Mr. Charles, the ones about needing money, the ones that started showing him affection only after his business succeeded. Your Honor, Felicia said, this isn't about protecting a vulnerable senior. This is about a daughter trying to control her father's income. Mr. Charles isn't incompetent. He's independent. And Ms. Charles can't stand it. Morrison objected, called Vanessa to the stand. She cried, talked about worrying for her father's safety, about watching him come home exhausted. But then Felicia asked one simple question. Ms. Charles, when was the last time you visited your father before he started his business? Vanessa hesitated. I'm not sure exactly. According to your father, it had been 8 months. 8 months without a single visit. But in the 3 months since his business became profitable, you've seen him 12 times. Why the sudden interest? I was busy with work. Were you too busy to post on Facebook about needing money? Too busy to complain about him online? Or were you just too busy to care until he had something you wanted? The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Vanessa's face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The judge called for a recess to review the evidence. We waited in the hallway for 2 hours while he deliberated. Nina held my hand the whole time. Darnell paced. Sister Hattie led a prayer circle right there in the courthouse corridor. Finally, we were called back in. I've reviewed all the evidence, Judge Thompson said, a black man in his 60s with kind eyes. And I find no merit to Ms. Charles's claims. Mr. Charles is clearly competent, clearly benefiting from his business, and clearly making his own informed decisions. The lawsuit is dismissed with prejudice. The courtroom erupted in cheers. Mr. Charles hugged me, crying. Vanessa stood frozen, then rushed out of the courtroom without looking back. Furthermore, the judge continued, waiting for silence, I'm troubled by what appears to be an attempt at financial exploitation of a senior citizen. I'm referring this matter to Adult Protective Services for investigation into Ms. Charles's actions. As we left the courthouse, reporters swarmed us, but this time they wanted the truth. Mrs. Washington, how does it feel to be vindicated? I feel grateful, I said simply. Grateful for a legal system that listened, for a community that supported us, and for Mr. Charles's courage to stand up for himself. What's next for the fund? I smiled. We keep going. We've got hundreds of seniors waiting for their chance to chase their dreams. One lawsuit isn't going to stop us. That night, the story broke nationally. Viral grandmother vindicated in elder exploitation case. The donations that had slowed to a trickle became a flood. People sent money from all 50 states, many with notes sharing their own stories of ageism and discrimination. Within a week, the fund had raised over $2 million. The publisher called back about the book deal. Universities renewed their speaking invitations. And the Today Show wanted another interview. But the moment that meant the most came 3 days after the hearing. I was in the kitchen making my peach cobbler when Nina came in, holding her phone. "Mama Gladys, you need to see this." She showed me a video that Vanessa Charles had posted. In it, Vanessa sat in her car, no makeup, eyes red from crying. "I owe Mr. Charles and Mrs. Washington an apology," she said to the camera. "I let greed and control blind me to what was really happening. My father was dying inside, and Mrs. Washington gave him life again. Instead of celebrating that, I tried to take it away because I couldn't control it. Because I wanted his money more than I wanted his happiness. I'm ashamed of myself. Dad, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You deserve to live your life on your terms. And Mrs. Washington, you're not a villain. I am. Or I was. I'm trying to do better." The video had millions of views and thousands of comments. Most were harsh, calling Vanessa greedy and selfish. But some were different. People admitting they'd done similar things to their own elderly parents, and that watching this unfold had opened their eyes. "Should I reach out to her?" I asked Nina. "Do you want to?" I thought about it. I want to reach out to Mr. Charles. Let him decide if and when he's ready to reconcile with his daughter. That's not my place. That's wise. Nina paused. Can I ask you something? If my video confession hadn't gone well, if people had attacked me the way they're attacking Vanessa, would you have stood by me? Yes. Why? Because redemption isn't about public approval. It's about genuine change. Vanessa posted that video to save face. You did your interview to save your soul. There's a difference. Nina hugged me tight. I love you, Mama Gladys. I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you too, baby. Over the next months, life found a new rhythm. The fund continued to grow, helping seniors across the country start businesses. I did speaking engagements, sharing Earl's wisdom and my own. Nina became the fund's official operations manager, using her skills to help us expand. Mr. Charles's business thrived. He and Vanessa began the slow process of rebuilding their relationship with family counseling and honest conversations. He told me later that the lawsuit, as painful as it was, had forced them both to confront hard truths. Sometimes the worst things lead to the best growth, he said. 6 months after the hearing, I stood in front of 500 people at a conference center, preparing to give the keynote speech at the National Senior Entrepreneurship Summit. In the front row sat Darnell, Nina, Jalen, and Amara. Behind them, Sister Hattie and half my church. In the back, I spotted Mr. Charles with his daughter Vanessa, who'd come to support him as he received an award for his business success. They told me I was too old, I began. Too gray, too outdated, too past my prime. They said I should sit down and let younger people handle things. But here's what they didn't know. Seasoning makes the meal taste good. Every year of my life added flavor, depth, resilience. I'm not outdated. I'm refined. I'm not past my prime. I'm in my purpose. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. I looked at Nina, who was crying and clapping, her face full of pride. I thought about how far we'd come. from her cruel words about my gray hair to this moment of mutual respect and love. After the speech, a young woman approached me, maybe 30 years old. "Mrs. Washington, my grandmother is 75 and wants to start a baking business, but my family thinks she's crazy. After hearing you speak, I realize we're wrong. Can you help us?" "Baby, that's what the fund is for. Give me her information." As I took down the details, I felt Earl's presence like a warm hand on my shoulder. We'd done it. We'd turned pain into purpose, betrayal into blessing, mockery into movement. That night, back home in my living room, the same outdated living room that Nina had once mocked, we celebrated. The house was full of laughter, music, the smell of good food. My grandbabies danced. Darnell told stories about Earl. Nina helped Sister Hattie serve plates. I stood in the doorway, taking it all in. This house held 40 years of memories. Earl's laughter, Darnell's childhood, countless Sunday dinners, and now a new generation making their own memories. Nina had almost taken this from me, but instead, she'd learned to cherish it. "Grandma, come dance." Amara pulled my hand. And I did. At 72 years old, with my gray hair shining like a crown and my heart full of purpose, I danced in my living room surrounded by love. They'd called me outdated. They'd tried to silence me, warehouse me, exploit me. But I'd risen up, found my voice, and changed lives, including my own. The Earl Washington Senior Dream Fund went on to help over 500 seniors in its first 2 years. I wrote a book that became a bestseller. Nina and I became a speaking team, sharing our story of conflict and reconciliation at conferences nationwide. But more than any of that, I'd reclaimed my dignity, my independence, and my right to live life on my own terms. One evening, a year after the courthouse victory, Nina found me on the back porch looking at old photos of Earl. "Missing him?" she asked. "Always. But I think he'd be proud of what we've built." "I know he would be." She sat beside me. "Mama Gladys, I never properly thanked you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For showing me grace when I deserved judgment. For teaching me that it's never too late to change." She took my hand. "You didn't just save those seniors with the fund. You saved me, too." "We saved each other, baby. That's what family does." We sat together in the gathering dusk, the sound of Jalen and Amara playing in the yard, Darnell's voice calling everyone to dinner. This was everything Earl and I had dreamed of: family, purpose, love, legacy. They'd tried to mock my gray hair. But every silver strand represented a lesson learned, a battle fought, a dream achieved. I wasn't outdated. I was exactly where I was supposed to be, doing exactly what I was meant to do. And if that wasn't the sweetest victory of all, I don't know what was. Thank you for staying with us through this journey. Please subscribe for more stories and drop a comment. We read every single one.